Hi, this is Dr. John Grazel, and this is another of our synoptic presentations on development topics not meant to cover things in depth, but to raise critical concerns and considerations. And this one is on an issue that I really think is extremely important because of its popularity and actually because of the extent to which it applies to a great deal of development. The issue is what's called appropriate technology. And how and how development people use technology in order to advance or try to advance development goals. Now, the metaphor I'm going to use is that of the Lone Ranger and the Silver Bullet. And this is a powerful metaphor, I believe, and therefore let's just consider this is how I think a lot of technology, both highly sophisticated and appropriate, is actually put into effect, and may explain why it doesn't often work.
The West, in the lusty days when the surge of civilization pushed onward to broader horizons, and the mighty breed of man wrested new life from the wilderness. But close on the pioneer trail came the renegade horde, land sharks, highwaymen, cattle thieves, terrorizing settler and tribesman alike, until one man rose to challenge their lawlessness, his face masked, his true identity unknown. Accompanied always by a faithful Indian companion, he thundered across the frontier, appearing out of nowhere to strike down injustice. His sign, a silver bullet. His name, the Lone Ranger.
What is the Lone Ranger and the Silver Bullet syndrome? Well, the Lone Ranger basically is the hero who rides into the town and he solves the immediate problem with a simple and direct solution, silver bullet, and everybody is happy. This is the way many people approach technology or think about technology. They think that technology per se simply can solve a situation. Now, man and his technology is intricately integrated. It's almost impossible for man and his technology to be separated. We are a tool-making, tool-using species. And technology has been vital for everything we have done, including development. And that goes for high technology and low technology. And many of our other presentations discuss these in different situations: agriculture, environment, economics, but high-tech, the Green Revolution, that basically now feeds the world because of the breeding of a much more productive rice crop. Low technology, we have a presentation on health, on oral rehydration therapy, simple mixture of salts and potassium that basically can save and have saved millions of children's lives from diarrhea, not without problems. The Green Revolution has a package of goods including pesticides and intense use of land that is of questionable sustainability. Oral rehydration therapy, tremendous success, but in fact we still have large numbers of children dying from other diseases because it doesn't really improve the health system. And in another video where we show Bali, we actually show just how both high and low tech, when not put into its social context and when not put within the complexities of a society, very often get you results you didn't expect. Now, what do I actually mean by high tech and as being a silver bullet that often doesn't work? Well, let me just give one example. Computers. People have worked, created computers for schools. And what happens is they show up at the school, but it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? You know, a school is not just a computer, and a school is a teacher. A school is a curriculum. A school is specific classes. A school is electricity if you want to use a computer. A school is policies. In India, there were schools that the computers were there when the donors visited, but they were locked up when they weren't because people were afraid they were going to be stolen, and teachers were held responsible for them. The same with low technology. You know, the world is filled with many examples of appropriate low technologies. Special pumps that have been made for different areas. Solar cookers, they've been done over and over and over and over again. And they're actually, very often, the question is not that they don't work, which in the case of high tech very often is the case, but actually that they don't spread. They're so appropriate to the immediate area that they aren't marketed, they aren't commercialized, and basically they aren't adapted for other places, and they basically stay, and then they die because they also aren't maintained. And what is the problem? It's the Lone Ranger problem. For the high tech, what you usually find is that it's the silver bullet syndrome. The persons think that just that high tech, as great as it is going to solve the problem. Well, in fact, silver bullets actually aren't even effective as lead bullets. Silver bullets by themselves don't solve problems. Appropriate technology, the problem is the Lone Ranger. Everyone is out there doing this as if they're by themselves for the specific town they're saving for its specific problem. All of which are worthy, except they're all Lone Rangers. And you know what happens when the Lone Ranger leaves the town? He solved the town's problem, but the West is still a wild place. Because you don't solve law and order in an entire territory through a lone incident or lone response in a lone town. You need the Texas Rangers. You need institutions. You need systematic and continuous and sustainable approaches. So it's that Lone Ranger syndrome. Now, there is good low tech that does work. There was something, just to give an example, a plastic bucket. Do people think plastic buckets? Plastic buckets have probably done more to relieve poor women's burdens in the developing world than almost any other innovation. Wonderful. Anybody can make them, easy to repair, very cheap, can be replicated. A very different type of example, there was an aid project years ago called the Jamaican Textbook Miracle, where they basically printed textbooks from the back remains of newspapers. They got teaching materials into all the schools. Very effective, low tech, but it wasn't a Lone Ranger. Everybody does plastic buckets. Newspaper as teaching material, lots of newspapers, not a Lone Ranger. Same with high tech. There's very good high tech. Vitamin fortified rice can be done. You can fortify many different foods. It can be done over. It can be part of commercialization. Very good. One I particularly think is the future, though, is very controversial. Genetically modified crops. An interesting mix, because for genetically modified crops to be effective, they have to be adapted locally, but they have to be useful enough to be spread commercially to many different uses. But in all these cases, appropriate technology or high-tech technology, if you want it to work, you have to say, I'm working in complex situations. I am working with systems, so I have to work systematically. I have to work cooperatively with people to create, to adapt, not just to think that I can bring in, invent, and give the solution. I have to make sure it's sustainable, which means it fits in with the cultures, with the economics. It's maintainable. The parts can be reproduced because it's produced on a wide enough scale that it's worthwhile for people to make repair parts and to be available for repair people. And you have to think about equity as well, because the reality is that in many cases, equity means it spreads to all who need it in the minimal level necessary. And you don't get that when you're a Lone Ranger in a lone town, or when you think you have a silver bullet for a particular problem.